He's a 7-time Bassmaster Angler of the Year, a 25-time Bassmaster winner, a 4-time Classic champion, a 4-time MLF winner, and an FLW Angler of the Year. All that rounds out to over $7 million in career earnings. And he's done with tournaments. He's ready to dominate TV fishing. That's right, the one and only KVD. Kevin VanDam joins me this week on...
I'm Bob Cobb from the Bassmaster. Welcome to Mercer.
Welcome one, welcome all, friends, family, freeloaders, fishing freaks, humpers. You're all welcome here at the Awkwardly Honest Fishing Podcast that goes by my last name, which is Mercer. Welcome into the 155th edition of the Mercer Podcast, and I wish you all a very happy hump day. Speaking of which, it was amazing the amount of people that came up to me at the Classic and proudly stated, hey, I'm a humper. I love the podcast. For people who listen, they totally get it. I mean, the show's on Wednesday, so you are humpers. To strangers walking past, they were somewhat appalled and shocked. But I'm thankful for each and every one of you. Speaking of humpers, this is a very special hump day for me. This was the day that my beautiful wife was born. So happy birthday to her. She was a big topic at the Classic. I mean, Rick Clunn mentioned her on stage during his speech. Our Bassmaster Classic champion mentioned her last week during the podcast. So as they all so eloquently put, I way outpunted my coverage. So thank you. Thank you for being the beautiful, amazing woman that you are, and actually works very hard to make sure that these podcasts get out in time, because I'm an idiot that just talks to people and generally throw a lot of different stuff at my beautiful wife, Sarah. And I thank her for that. So throw it down in the comments. I mean, if you don't like me, most of my friends actually, after they meet my wife, actually like my wife better than they like me. So happy birthday, Sarah. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope this makes up for my fairly mediocre birthday gifts that I give you. This is the 155th edition of this particular podcast, and I thank you for tuning in. It is a crazy time in the fishing world, a crazy, crazy, crazy time in the fishing world. And I'll be honest. If this podcast is not one thing to you guys, it is this. It is honest. I'm getting freaking tired of it. I honestly am. I mean, the weirdest thing in the world is to host a fishing podcast, and there is some fishing podcasts out there, and they're salivating at all the different controversies and DQs and bullcrap and suspensions that are going on in fishing. And I'm here in the podcast world, and I'm like, I mean, it's easy. It is low-hanging fruit. I mean, I could go off and freak out about stuff. And I'm not judging anybody that is involved in any of these. My biggest beef, I guess, is that it's become the fast road to traffic on a podcast. And to me, and hey, I try to be as real as possible on this show, to the point that sometimes I say things that I'm like, well, maybe you shouldn't have said that. But I'm not going to jump on a topic just to get traffic. And that really seems like what it has become. There is so many different people jumping on stories just because. I mean, the fishing industry is turning into TMZ, and I'm gonna try not to be part of that, because in my opinion, the majority of the people that listen to this podcast, that listen to any of the fishing podcasts, they deal with bull crap in the rest of their life. They got a crappy boss. They got a job that they're trying to get a break from. I mean, I hear it from you guys in the comments. You know, a lot of people listen to this podcast. They're like, thank you, by the way, for the feedback last week. Make them as long as possible. And this one isn't, ironically, but they'll be all over the place. But people look at a show like this as a distraction. I mean, there's real problems in the world. And there is so much drama around fishing right now. I don't know. Maybe I'm just having a good week. I mean, next week I'll be right back to pitchforking somebody. I don't know. But I just feel like it's just a witch hunt for controversy. There's so much good stuff happening in the sport right now. There is so many amazing things, but there is people that are battling. And it doesn't matter what side you're on. All I'm saying is we're all anglers. We all fish. I don't care what the controversy is. You know, insert controversy here. Everybody can have their opinion. We don't all have to agree. But what we do agree is that fishing's a pretty cool sport. And it's fishing something I want to be part of. And the TMZ world that is becoming is not always something I want to be part of. I don't even know why I'm saying this. I'm just being honest with you guys. Like, there's part of me that's like, do I say something? Do I have an opinion? I mean, I could just spend 15 minutes giving you guys an opinion here on different things, and maybe that's a smarter thing for a podcaster to do. But sometimes I think we got to just shut up and focus on the good, because there's a lot of good that is getting overshadowed by some negatives, by some things that are going on. So I don't know if any of this makes any sense, but this show is never meant to be a certain direction. This show was never meant. I literally have said the same thing always. It's a voice for the anglers. I don't go into conversations with a direction. I mean, the anglers take it in whatever direction they choose to go. And there are shows where I literally have a bunch of questions in my head, and sometimes we go there, but sometimes the angler goes in a totally different direction. This week's show, I mean, Kevin is fired up. I mean, I literally think I asked him like 5 or 6 questions this whole conversation. It's just one thing rolls into another, and it's the direction that he wants to take it. And that's what I promise you with this show. I promise you honesty, and I promise you a voice for the anglers. I'm not here to debate and fight and argue. And if that's what it takes to get traffic, then so be it. But this little cone of happiness that I try to put out every week, that's what I'm trying to do. And again, I'm not judging the people that are doing it. I'm just saying I'm not. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't know. You guys let me know. But this week, we have a amazing guest, one of my closest friends on this planet, the one and only Kevin VanDam. And he promised, we did a little phoner thing a few weeks ago where he announced his show, The VanDam Experience. And he said, I'd come on and tell you all about it. Well, that's what he does this week. And we get into some of that stuff, obviously, because conversations go that direction. But I guess I don't want to avoid things, but I also just don't want that to be the pulpit. Like, this week, you got to come here to see who's upset about whatever. That's just, I don't know. I'm a simple person. Some people say very simple. But one of the ways that I remain happy is I try to surround myself with happiness. I try to surround myself with goodness. And I mean, I'm like anybody else. There's times where I can get dragged into a dark place, and you start to feed off that darkness. But I've obviously found the more that I feed off light, the more light comes out of me. And I don't want to, I'm not telling anybody how to live. It's just what I do. And I've really honestly sat around and wondered, like, what do I talk about? Like, is the right thing for me to be like, well, this is wrong and this is happening? No, I don't want to do it. Let me know if I'm right or wrong in the comments. You let me know what you want to hear from this show. And I thank you guys for tuning in every week. And I thank you for being humpers. I mean, because who doesn't love humpers? Well, I mean, I love you guys. And I love that we get to have this conversation every single week. And I love the fact that I have a platform where I can just ramble like this for 10 minutes. And hopefully most of you still are listening, because it's worth it if you stuck tuned, because we're going to hook up with the one and only Kevin VanDam. KVD, how are you?
Man, it has been a time lately that, I mean, whirlwind with Redcrest and the Classic, and just, a lot of things going on in the personal life and starting a new show and all that. So it has been crazy the last month, really. But what's new? It's always been that way.
So let's start with the show, because that's the big news that came out right before the Redcrest and straight into the Classic. How long have you been thinking about doing a show? Like, when did this start?
Well, I've, my whole career, I've pretty much known that someday I wanted to do a television show. I grew up watching it, man. I'm a fan first, right? So, I mean, I grew up, to me, the heyday was the TNN days when you had, Bill Dance and Roland and Hank and Jimmy and the Bassmasters and In Fisherman and Orlando Wilson. I mean, all those guys just lined up back to back to back. And I've always liked it. I grew up, like you say, watching all of that. And as I've competed, I've done a lot of shows, right? So I do a lot for Bass Pro Shops, the Bass Pros and Strike King Pro Team Journal. And so I've been shooting shows for my whole career, but it's just never been my own show. And I've always known that I wanted to do my own show at some point, or, when at the end of my tournament career, I just love fishing and I love teaching people. So it's been something I've had on my radar for, 20 years for sure. And I just felt like the timing was right. I made the announcement last year to be my last professional season on tour, and all along knowing that, I'm going to launch a show. I mean, behind the scenes, you knew that too. I mean, in our conversations, that's what I wanted to do. And now with all the drama between forward facing sonar and the leagues and things like that, it seems like I made a really good decision. But, I'm excited about it because it's just, it's new. I've did the tour for 33 years, and the hardest part, and I love it. I mean, I love tournament fishing, but the hardest part is being locked into that tour schedule and the grind of it and all the things that you miss. And I'm at that point in my life now. I'm in my mid 50s, and we have a lot of, friends that are taking bucket list vacations, and our kids are, growing up to where they're starting their own lives, and you just miss a lot of things that, it's just, I don't need to, that I don't have to. So this will give me, I mean, I'm still working, honestly, as hard or more than I ever have, but it gives me more flexibility in the schedule. I mean, the show is going to air on the Outdoor Channel. I mean, you know all about that. Facts of Fishing is there. Zona show's there. I'm pretty sure that the Outdoor Channel folks they're really excited, because fishing has been the one area where they don't have that much content. And so to have, the Strike King Pro Team Journal with the production quality they're doing, and your show and Zona's show and my show, we got a chance to have a new shot at the awesome fishing block again, where you got a bunch of good shows that give a lot of good content back to back to back. So I know they're excited about it. I'm pretty, fired up about it. We've already filmed a handful of them. I filmed a couple in Texas, and I filmed one in Tennessee already. I'm probably going to shoot some in Michigan starting next week. I got to do some around here, but I want to do them all over. I want to visit a lot of the places that I've been, that I've got history, and kind of show, be able to show the past a little bit, but also live in the now. I mean, we just do things differently. Technology is way different. We've got forward facing sonar now. We've got, lake master mapping and side imaging. And, we just have so much more, even lure wise and line and braided, just the history that we have is incredible. And so it's important for me to kind of showcase that. I look behind you there and I see Ray Scott's hat hanging there. And it's incredibly important to me in the future. And that's why I work so hard with the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame on the board there, to make sure that these kids coming up today, the Justin Hamners of the world, know exactly who Ray Scott was and what he did for all of us, along with all the others before that. So that part is important, and I lived it, and I've got a very vivid memory of it. So I want to be able to showcase some of that in my show. And then I really want to bring, I'm fortunate to know a lot of cool people that are outside of our sport that love bass fishing and love tournament fishing. And I want to bring those people in. And I'm no dummy. They've got great fan followings and stuff like that. So it's a great way to cross pollinate our audiences. And I know in conversations that I've had with the people at Major League Fishing and also at Bass, they're trying to do the same things as well. So, I mean, the last couple of weeks were really good for the sport. We had a really good Redcrest event there with an expo, the Classic in Tulsa. Obviously when you go to Birmingham and Tulsa, you're going to have good events, but both of them were very good shows. A lot of great fans showed up and super positive. A lot of tackle gets sold. Boat sales are a little, interest rates are going up, things like that. Our industries, we've been on a COVID high for a while. And
Yeah.
so it was good to see the positivity and the buzz. And then, seeing all the great friends that I have. I've seen Hank Parker, and I got to hang out with Bill Dance. And of course, you and Sarah, we got to spend some time together. I mean, it's a shame that either I got to drive to your house in Canada for your birthday, or we got to meet at the Classic, or you got to come to my house in Michigan for us to hang out anymore. But, we'll still do iCast and things like that. But this new show for me, it's energizing, it's reinvigorating, and I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. And I think fans are really going to like what we're bringing. Our production quality is top notch, and our guest list is top notch, and our educational content is me. It's what I've done my whole career, and I think people like that. I mean, yeah, there's everybody has their own spin on how to crank a ledge with a 6XD or jerk a jerk bait or throw a Nico rig. But I show people what works for me, and I love to teach people how to be more successful on the water. What I do as a tournament angler, what I've done for 33 years, is no different than the weekend casual angler. We each have a limited amount of time, and we want to go out there and have the most productive, fun time with our friends or family as we can. And that's what I want to focus on.
Does it feel, now that you've shot a couple of them, does it feel different to you? I mean, you've shot hundreds of fishing shows for somebody else.
Yeah,
but this
but
being your own.
The difference is I bought all my own gear. I'm hiring my own employees. And so when you leave the house to do a shoot, the meter's running, man. And so it's the intensity of believe it or not, it's very similar to that tournament atmosphere. I mean, I've got no $100,000 payday at the end that I'm shooting for. If you don't catch them, it's all money wasted out the door on these deals. So it is a lot of pressure. That first couple, those first couple that I did, you feel that and you think that, but I'm pretty relaxed about it now. And I just, I know, we'll be able to get through it, because not only do you got to do a show, the 13 original episodes that'll go on the Outdoor Channel, but it's all the other content around it too. That YouTube is so big right now. I mean, just like you know that as well as anything. We've talked about it, and I appreciate your insights there, because I've just never focused on my YouTube channel, but we're putting a lot more YouTube content out now, and it's a little mix of everything. We're doing lifestyle stuff and things that I can't focus on the Outdoor Channel. And my Outdoor Channel show is at least to start with, it's focused around bass fishing. I'm not going sail fishing or doing things like that, but it's all going to be bass fishing to begin with, because that's my foundation, and I feel like that's where I got to get this thing going. But I do want to branch out into other things. I love to hunt and cook in the outdoors, and Jackson's a chef, so we'll mix some cooking stuff in there for sure. But on our YouTube channel, that's where we'll put a lot of this other content and start to build that. And who knows, I don't think that I want to do 2 or 3 shows like what, Bill Dance has, Bill Dance Outdoors and Saltwater, and Hank Parker's done hunting shows and fishing shows. And, you look at Heartland Bow Hunter and they do Heartland Waterfowl. And, they're wanting to get into, they want to do more and more. I love to work and I love to do this, but I want to make sure that foundationally that the VanDam experience, first and foremost, gets the most attention, because that's, it's not the same as it was 30 years ago. And I want to make sure that we create the content that my fans want to see and that I can bring new fans to, so that we can grow and move forward.
By calling it the VanDam experience, does that tell me, I mean, you already mentioned Jackson, do you plan on having other VanDams be part of the show?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I really want to do, my dad's 86 years old. He's a great foundational inspiration for me. I want to be able to do a show with him, bluegill fishing. I mean, that's where his heart's at now. And so it'd be great to be able to, and his health is not the greatest, right? He's 86. So, this year we want to get out there. I want to do a show with, my brother Randy and my dad and Jonathan and the boys and my nephews, and just, it'll be for our YouTube channel. But I think people, I got to do that to showcase what our family is to us.
Yeah.
And I'm no different. We all have that. We're all family, right? You and I are family. We love each other like brothers. We do a lot of things together, and that's what this industry and this sport is really about. I mean, it's my favorite thing about being in this in fishing, that I think is unique and different. I mean, for 28 years on the Bassmasters, that's all is those people. I mean, I've got great memories with Trip Weldon and Dewey Kendrick and Ray Scott, all the way up through the television production crew, the whole JM crew with Mike,
Yeah.
with Jerry, and you and Zona, and I mean Davey and Scott and I roomed forever. So that's your extended family, and I don't take it for granted. So it was great to see a lot of the people that I don't see that often. I've seen a lot of old, long-term, I shouldn't say old, long-term BASS employees at the Classic. I mean, I seen Wes behind the stage. We were doing activations for Bass Pro Shops and Nitro and Humminbird and things like that. I mean, I'm just honored and humbled that Johnson Outdoors, they bought my boat from last year, and they're making, doing this big promotion that they launched at Redcrest and the Classic to give it away. And so, to be able to go out in front of the fans and thank the fans there in the arena, to be able to do that at both, venues, when it's arguably that's my last hurrah at tournament fishing was Redcrest, and to watch the Classic and not get to compete at Grand Lake, where I've won 2 elite events and fished multiple classics. And gosh, I felt like I gave that one, Cliff Pace won that first one there. And I knew I had opportunity to win that one. And just every time, it's when you get an event and it slips through your fingers like that, it haunts you. But, just getting to see Danette and again, just a lot of the other people behind the scenes. And there's a lot of new people. Lisa's the new tournament director, and she's doing a fantastic job. But Tripp sent me a text there that week too, and Hank was there, and to see him, I watched him grow up. And a lot of the other anglers, I mean, we were staying with the Toyota folks at their hotel, and it ends up being the same hotel as you and a lot of the other people. And I've Hank Cherry and his wife, and I mean, just seeing all these kids and just how they've grown. I mean, it was no different than ours, than Jackson and Nicholas. They grew up on tour, and all these anglers raised their families there and together, and it's really cool, because it's not like that in the NFL. It's not like that in Major League Baseball, NHL. It might be a little bit like that in NASCAR. It might be a little bit like that on the PGA Tour, but anglers just don't have the longevity or I mean, anglers have the longevity that people in other sports don't. I mean, look at Rick Cludd.
Yeah.
To see Melissa and his whole family there, and that tribute you guys did, and all of that stuff. Um, I was at the Bass Pro Shops booth for that live episode of the cast that James Hall hosted with all of my favorite friends and legends up there. I mean, I was just awe-inspired there. So, I mean, just it's a great time to be a fan. The sport is changing, no question, but man, there's so much incredible history, and to have the Roland Martins and the Bill Dances and the Hank Parkers and the Jimmy Houstons and Johnny Morse there, all together like that. That's you can't take that for granted. So it's pretty special.
Speaking of special, it's happened 2 years in a row now. Gussie said it right after he won the Classic, and so did Hamner. One of their absolute highlights of winning the Bassmaster Classic was having you show up at the toast and congratulate them. That what do you say to them? Like, do you feel a pressure? Like, do you just go say congrats, or do you feel like I'm KVD and I got to say something special
No,
here?
well, so Dave, for me, I've been a fan since day one first, and I
Yeah.
have never, the only classic that I have missed in my whole career, um, that I think that I missed that on was at the COVID year when Hank won in
Yeah.
uh, in Fort Worth, and that's just because of how where we were at. But every single year, I have been there to see the classic champion crowned. I've seen, the handful of years now for the Redcrest champion. I've seen that, you get to be a part of that. And just like I said, when I was doing that ride around, when I got to thank the fans for Humminbird and Minn Kota with my promotion, is nowadays you can watch it live on the live stream, and television does a good job with it when the TV shows in the past, but there's nothing like being there in person,
Yeah.
and it's special. And that's why, as a fan first, that anytime that I'm there, and I'm sure there'll be a time when I don't get to make every single championship toast for the classic, but while I'm there, I'm going to make sure that if there's a way that I can do it, I'm going to do it, because and I don't know Justin very, I mean, I honestly, this past week's first time I've ever met him, but he is just, you can just see what it means to him and the other people, we all know because you live it. So it's just pretty special to be able to do that uh, for me. And I'm not doing it for any other reason other than that I'm a fan of the sport. And that's the kind of respect, good, bad, or indifferent, whatever you think about forward facing sonar or um, any of it. You've got to appreciate those moments and what it means, how it's going to change his life and his family. I mean, kid is cutting grass, and it was one of the best quotes I've ever heard. He's like, man, I'm not going to be seeing that lawnmower anytime soon, I mean, so and that's what it's about. And we've seen that time and time again, where and if you're smart about it, you can springboard a classic win to be a really huge part of a long career. And there's just nothing about it. It should be the easiest tournament to win, but
Yeah.
it's the hardest. I mean, I think, I mean, I was like 4 for 28. That's not very good average, but to win 4 classics, it's just such a tough event. There's so much going on there. I mean, I texted Jason Christie. I saw him a few times during the week. The amount of pressure on your home body of water like that,
Yeah.
it's just it's incredible. And you got so much history there that it's almost it just makes it harder. And that's the thing, later in my career, every time I go to Gunnersville or something like that, it's hard to forget the past and just go in with an open mind. And that's exactly how Justin won the classic, is he went in with a total open mind and fished the current conditions and dominated.
What did you say to him that night?
I basically congratulated him and told him, it was amazing to watch, and anything, obviously, anytime I can help somebody or do whatever, I'd love to be able to help them with any advice. But more important, just to savor the moment and really appreciate the magnitude of what he had just accomplished. And you just don't. I mean, I don't think I ever took any of them for granted, but early in my career when I would win, you're so focused on winning that a lot of times you don't sit back and smell the roses, and that's what you have to do is, and Gussie would tell you the same thing. I mean, probably the greatest year of his life. I mean, he really embraced it and enjoyed it. And he's, him well. He's got just such a great personality. He's that's a great story, and Justin is as well. I mean, look, he's not, a young superstar. He's pretty unknown probably to the majority of the bass fishing community, but not anymore. And that's what the Classic will do for you. Is it it puts you on the top center of the map right away. And he's going to have a lot of great opportunities. I seen, he went to Talladega to the NASCAR race. I mean, he might have been before, but
No.
he's not getting treated like that. And that's a great crossover fan base. So I mean, he is going to have incredible opportunities through this year, and I know that he's going to take full advantage of it.
How did you? Davey Hyde himself said on this very podcast, he said, in retrospect, looking back at his career, he said after winning the Classic, he feels like he took his foot off the pedal a little bit. You know what I mean? He was still very competitive, still won events, but he feels like, he was almost a little satisfied that you clearly were not that. Is that what's the difference between those two?
Well, I was there when Davey won the Classic in New Orleans, and I've known him my whole life, fishing life. I mean, since his kids were born.
Yeah.
And I've watched them grow up, and now they're having their own kids. And I watched him win that Classic. I watched him win Angler of the Year a few years after that, and I've seen him win multiple tournaments. And it is, I mean, when you get older and you have kids and things like that, your priorities and stuff change maybe a little bit to where you're not, you may be a little more satisfied. There's a lot of these kids today that's all they do, especially now. You look at these Japanese anglers; they go from lake to lake to lake to lake. I mean, that's all they're doing is practicing. And look at what Tiger Woods did in golf. Look at what NFL athletes did. I mean, a lot of back when I went to high school, you played three sports. You played basketball, baseball, and football. Not anymore. You focus on just one thing. And these young anglers now are 100% focused on fishing. They're learning the technology. They're going to the lakes. They're doing their homework. They're putting their work in. You watch at what those people are doing early in their life when they don't have, 15-year-old, 12, 15-year-old kids in school and in sports. I mean, just look at Hank Cherry's speech on the Classic stage compared to Trey McKinney. The difference in those two and where they're at in their lives and what they have time to commit to the sport. It's just your priorities do change. And maybe you do say, well, I've won a Classic, but I've never really had that attitude, because when I show up in an event, especially a tournament, I mean, it might be, this one, my last Redcrest, it's like you show up to that and I understand the magnitude of it. But, when you take off and you head out and the clock starts running, man, I'm full blown tournament mode, just, trying to figure out what I can do to maximize the day and, try to do what you can to win. But you may not do all the prep work and, put in all the pre-practice. And, when I did it before, I didn't necessarily have to. I mean, it was so much about my instincts and just showing up and going, doing what I did. And, it's still important, to be able to do that. So, going forward, it's the sport's changing for sure. But there's a lot of there's some negative things right now, but there's definitely a lot of positives as well.
Changing for good or bad?
Both. I mean, the biggest controversy we got going, and you can't go anywhere. I mean, for all the Redcrest, all the classic, all the buzzes, forward facing sonar. It just is. My brother had his big in store this past weekend over Easter, and it's, without fail, it comes up in every conversation, whether it's a, 21-year-old college kid that's just trying to make it into the big leagues, all the way up to a lot of these guys that have followed my whole career, and are still fishing tournaments, locally here. So, um, you know, there's restrictions on technology in every sport. I mean, NASCAR is a perfect example. The PGA, and even simple sports like football and baseball. I mean, there is. And right now, I think that the technology has outpaced the laws that are in place by the state agencies. I know that a lot of the state fisheries chiefs, I know some of them from different states here in Michigan, and then and around the country. They're looking at it real closely, and they're watching what's going on. And so are the tournament organizations. But nobody wants to make that snap decision. I mean, I am so focused on conservation through our foundation, and we're doing habitat programs, and fishing is really in a good place overall, from a resource standpoint. I mean, we are not building new lakes, and we've got to take care of the ones we've got. And our anglers as a whole have really done a great job of that. I mean, the angling community, and I think our biologists have. So I believe on making conservation decisions on science, not on political pressure
Yeah.
or economic pressure by sponsors or the companies that are paying, the electronics companies. People say, well, I can tell you, I work with Humminbird and Minn Kota, and they want to do what's right for the resource as well. So whatever that is. So it's not just driven by money, but I think a lot of the people, and not this isn't being, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but unless you're one of the anglers out there on the Elite Series or the Bass Pro Tour, or somebody that's living it every single day, the people in sales and management, and that they don't fully understand forward facing sonar yet, and what a tool it is. And it's changed the sport. It's changed the way we think at it. And there's got to be some kind of happy medium here in professional sports, because we don't, a long time ago, Ray Scott was smart enough to say, hey, look, we don't need to troll, and we don't need to use live bait, because you don't have to be a professional to catch them that way. And it's not fun to watch either. And, to put a bobber with a shiner out, it's just, it's fun to do, but it's pretty dang effective. I've been to Okeechobee when, man, you can't get a bite on an artificial. It's a cold front, and the wind's blowing, the water's dirty, and you can lob a bunch of shiners out there, and about an hour later, I mean, those bass will home in on them and find them, and and you just can't buy a bite any other way. So you don't have to be a professional to do that. And that's my whole thing. I mean, immediately when the Alabama rig came out, it didn't take long for that to get banned. And yet nobody's thinking or doing anything at all around forward facing sonar. So, and I don't have the answer, because there's not an easy one, but I do believe that we have to do something before the government gets involved and does something that hurts tournament fishing, or that restricts us. I mean, everyday organizations like PETA are looking for reasons to shut us down. And so, we've done a great job of policing ourselves up to this point, and managing, conservation. I mean, just like hey, it's not a good idea to hold tournaments in August at Sam Rayburn because you can't keep the fish alive in your live well, right? So, I mean, we pioneered catch, weigh, release. Just you look at places like Lake Fork, Dale Hollow, a lot of places in Florida where they've put creel limits and restrictions on where people have to do paper tournaments. And I mean, all the kayak tournaments are paper tournaments or catch, weigh, release. And that is something that we have to think about in the future is protecting the resource. I mean, we as licensed anglers have the right to go out and kill every one of them, but none of us wants to do that. I mean, we want to protect the resource. Bass are so special to all of us. We want to do our best to take care of them. And I mean, nobody does a better job than BASS with their weigh-in process and fish care, but there's still a level of stress that happens. And we know, hey, yeah, we don't. That's why you see the schedule the way that it is we're not at Falcon Lake in August holding
Yeah.
tournaments, right? So you want colder water, you want different conditions and things like that to help you, but it's all part of that process. And I believe that we've got to really look at it. And I know that there's a lot of smart people taking a look at it, and they're just really trying to make the right decision, not come to a knee-jerk reaction and ban it because that technology's always been a part of our sport. I mean, and I've been on the forefront of all of it from side imaging when it was first. I mean, when we went from 2D sonar to side imaging, it was a big improvement. And lake master mapping to Mega 360,
Spot lock.
being able to have shallow water anchors, like Raptors, and from 2 strokes to 4 strokes to the improvements in our boats. I mean, fluorocarbon fishing line, braided line, so much better designed baits all across, and materials and gulp and power bait. I mean, technology's always been there, and it's always give anglers an edge. But at the end of the day, we don't hunt elk with thermals, and we don't spotlight deer at night for a reason, because it's just not very sporting. And we've got to come to some kind of happy medium with forward facing sonar there, some kind of and I don't know that you know what the exact answer is, because that's what drives technology and innovation is these tournaments. But when I seen Chris Zaldane's video at the beginning of the year, and you look at some of the guys on the Bass Pro Tour with 5 and 6 live transducers, front, back, sides, and things like that, it's like, hey, are we? And we've got the no information rule for years and years, because we don't want guys to be able to get an unfair advantage. We want a level playing field. Well, we need to, I guess, at least look in the mirror on some of these things.
I got to ask it because it's going to come up. Did that technology have anything to do with the timing of your retirement?
It really did not. I mean, so I have been a longtime guy with Humminbird and Minn Kota, and they were the last to the game in having live. Mega 360 was, but it's very different than Mega Live. And I think Garmin probably was the first, and the Lowrance followed. And man, what forward-facing sonar was a year ago to what it is. I mean, our anglers are just like they do with anything. They are really good at maximizing a new technique. Or I mean, you can see it the first time a Nico rig hit the tour compared to where it's at now, or a drop shot. The side imaging, how guys are tuning their graphs and things like that to it. So, but it looks, suspicious, so to speak. But I knew that the time was coming for me. It's something that I've been thinking about, for you and I have talked about it for several
Yeah.
years. I mean, Davey and I have talked about it since before he retired. I mean, I went through it with him when he got the opportunity, and it was the perfect timing for him because what an opportunity to, step away from the Elite Series and step right into, being a commentator for the Bassmasters with Zona and Sanders and yourself. So him and I have talked about it for years, and I knew that it was coming, and I just tried to pick the time for me from a competitor standpoint when I could mentally do it, and then just based on my family and you know my kids' age and my parents and my wife and her, just all of those things that it was something that, between the off season before to then, it didn't take me long to kind of figure out that that's really what I wanted to do. And all this has really kind of even blown up even more since.
Yeah.
So, um, and again, I don't, I wish there was like, hey, we need to do this with this technology and it'll level the playing field and it'll be competitive across the board and equal opportunity for anglers, and it is. But the challenge right now at the high level, and what one of the things I worry about is what are we telling our young up and coming anglers. I seen a lot of high school and college anglers this past weekend, both the classic Redcrest and my brother's event, and the cost of entry now for a college angler to get in for his boat, motor, and trailers, it's high. And then they think to be competitive, they have to have $20,000 or $30,000 worth of electronics and forward-facing sonar, and then also just the recruitment on the lower level. I mean, I see it for the bass club guys and the weekend anglers and the weeknight jackpot tournament fishermen, that participation is falling fast because people don't want to compete against this one local hotshot that's got all of this technology and has really put it into play. I mean, so it's hurting recruitment, and especially at the top level with co-anglers and stuff like that, and for the opens and things like that. They don't co-anglers don't want to go sit in the back when the guys just trolling around the middle of the lake and picking them off with forward facing sonar, and just doesn't leave them a lot of options to throw at. And it's maybe a good way to learn, but we're already seeing that both in the opens and like the Tech Warehouse series and that, where it's a challenge to recruit co-anglers and to recruit people into tournament fishing, and nobody wants to see that either. So um, you know there's already some circuits that are going out there and saying, hey, no forward facing sonar. There's a few single events like that, um, and then there's the thought process too. And I mean, one of the best things I've heard is, uh, hey, let's do half the events with it and half without. And I mean, what a case for your true angler of the year, because instincts are still should be a really, really critical part of it. And that is probably one of the coolest ideas that I've seen so far. You light up the elite schedule, and you pick the lakes and the dates and all of that. You throw them all in a hat and say, hey, we're going to draw this many out, and these ones are going to be no forward facing sonar, and the rest of them you can use it. Before season starts, you can practice for it, you can plan for it, and I think our fan base would really, as a fan, I'd watch for sure.
Okay. Oh, I didn't expect this to get into as deep as that, but let me talk to you about the TV show. Let's get back to the TV show.
Yeah.
When people look at your career, they say KVD stepped away from the sport, what some would perceive as early. But then I also look at people like Bill Dance and Hank Parker, who both stepped away from the sport perceivably early. And they're two of the most successful people in the history of this sport. Did any of that come into play with your timing?
Hank retired he won the Classic, and I started the very next year. And I
Oh,
mean,
really?
I'm a huge fan of Hank Parker's growing up. Watched his show. I watched him win that Classic on the James River. I seen all that, and he's been a really good friend of mine over the years since then. And I've known Bill Dance a really long time. Bill Dance is a great friend of mine, and Bill really stepped away early. He knew he had. I mean, smart as a fox. He knew he had a great opportunity, and Roland was a dang killer then, on tournaments. And Bill, he would he had some success, and he picked a good time, and he's arguably the greatest known bass fisherman worldwide that's ever lived. Um, so no, I wouldn't say that I planned it that way. But the biggest thing for me is I've watched in my career a lot of anglers go and go and go, and they just don't ever quit. And I get it that you're so passionate about it. Like Rick Clun, I've talked to him about that in the past. He's like, man, this is what I love. I'm not, hunting isn't my hobby. And, I just don't have, I'm not into golf. I don't have this is my passion. This is what I love to do. And that's why he's stayed in tournaments for 50 years. But, there's always a drop off, whether it's Tom Brady and football or, NASCAR drivers. I know a lot of those guys. I mean, I watched Tony Stewart his whole career, and Dale Jr. And Ryan Newman's a great friend of mine, and Martin Truex Jr. is a great friend of mine. And I mean, physically, in football and some of these other sports, you're going to have your time picked for you. And in fishing, it's not necessarily the case. It's very much a mental sport. It is very physical as well. It's a grind, but I just knew that I would rather pick my time than have my time picked for me. And I didn't want to go and just go to where I wasn't competitive. I feel like to the very end, that I was competitive enough to win any event that I went
Yeah.
into. I believe that. Um, I didn't win an event last season in my final year, and that's something that I really wanted to do.
Came
Put a lot of
close.
pressure on myself. Yeah, but um, yeah, I got to that point where I was like, hey, and honestly, like I said, the new television show, the VanDam Experience, is it's energizing, it's invigorating, almost to the point like you could say you see that because you're a huge NFL fan, obviously, you with Chiefs fan with the greatest dynasty and more so than the Patriots at this point. And uh,
I'll ignore the roll of the eyes.
yeah, well, no, it's true. I'm a huge Lions fan, but when you see a player, just look what Jared Goff went through. Getting
Yeah.
for one pick, getting traded from from LA, he gets stuck in Detroit. Dan Campbell comes to town. I mean, look how re-energizing that's been for him. And you've seen that for other players when they get traded, get a new environment and fresh outlook. It's you wake up different every day. And now I still follow the sport real close. I'm following the tournaments, but I wake up every day, um, with a different mindset now, and a different focus. And it's energizing. It's exciting, and I know I have a responsibility as a role model in this sport, or I feel like I do, to continue that. And I don't, I've always tried. I mean, I have always tried to put the sport first, and everything that I've done in my career. I've tried to put the anglers first. That's my people, right? Um, I've been on every committee from day one with BASS, with MLF, um, with all of the things. People respect my opinion. I'm on the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame board, Congressional Sportsmen's Foundations, the MUC, a lot of different conservation groups, things like that. And I try to not be biased and not to put my own personal opinion or personal agenda out there. I want to try to do what I think long term is good. And competition is good, right? To have sonar companies competing with each other. That's what drives technology. Lure companies competing against each other. And, the two leagues have, they've created a lot of opportunities for the anglers. I just hate to see the anglers fight amongst themselves. And we've got more of that now than we've ever had. There's a lot of these young and up and coming anglers that are trying to fight and find their way. And there's a lot of guys that have been in the sport for a really long time that are trying to keep a foot in the door as well and don't want to be pushed out. But the reality of it is it's professional sports. It's, performance-based business. Whether you're, Strike King Lure Company versus, Berkeley or whatever, we're competing against each other. And anglers are in the same way. I mean, yeah, there's room for everybody, and we can do it. Let's do it respectfully. But at the end of the day, you're not going to, be Patrick Mahomes unless you're Patrick Mahomes, right? You've got to perform. And when you stop performing at that level, they're going to bring somebody in that's going to, I mean, if you have a kicker that's missing field goals, it isn't long till they're bringing in a new one. And that's the way it is in fishing. But because there's all these independent contractors, every angler's its own independent business owner, independent contractor. Yeah. Why wouldn't you fight for your own livelihood? You have to, and it's hard. You have to put your own interests first. But I've always tried to look the other, at it the other way and look big picture and long term. And I feel like going forward in the future, I want to be a great ambassador for fishing and for tournament fishing, and really to continue to do that. And you get pulled a lot of different directions. I've got all kinds of people that, want to have me help them in this way or their organization or their group. And you have to, I have to choose wisely and be smart about it. And I'm trying to do that. Am I perfect? No, but I take it very seriously.
When you look back at your career, if you could, is there anything you'd change?
Oh, it's real easy to say now, but at the times, there's, you make decisions based on the best information that you have. And it's like tournaments. You go out there, you spend your 2 or 3 days of practice, you build a game plan, and then when it's over, it's like, oh shoot, it's easy now. I wish I would have done this or that. So there's always things that you would look back at differently. But overall, I don't have anything I'm ashamed of or embarrassed of. I've always tried to do the right thing. I've always tried to be respectful and treat people, with respect. But, you got to call a spade at times too. And I've done that a handful of times. And sometimes you get backlash for that. But it's this day and age with social media and, such visibility to everything. It's hard to make everybody happy. But I've had a blast to this point,
Yeah,
and I'm going to have a blast going forward. I love what I do. When you wake up every day and it doesn't feel like a job, you're doing the right thing.
I agree. The other thing I agree with is you said you're going to have some famous people on your show because a lot of people like to watch famous people. You have a lot of famous people in your phone. Who do you think the most famous person in your phone right now that you could call on this podcast and they would actually answer?
Well, I would never do that to my famous friends, but I have some pretty cool people in my phone, no doubt.
So you're not going to play my game.
I'm not going to hit send on any of them this morning. A lot of them are in different time zones where it's kind of early.
Yeah, I gotcha.
That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, see, you're nicer to your famous friends than I am to my famous friends because I just put my famous friend on the spot. Tell me about the first few episodes you shot. Will you let us know anything about it? Like, who'd you shoot with?
Um, I I shot I shot a couple of shows with myself, you know, and I shot a show with another really good famous artist. So it
You're
was
not going to tell me nothing.
it's
All
pretty good.
right. I want to know one thing from you, dude. And I don't want the canned answer of, what you're going to miss about tournament fishing, because the canned answer is your friends, your relationships and everything. What are the moments? Like the moments
Yeah, no,
it, it,
that is a big one. Yeah, no doubt. The people, and I've said that many times, the people are what make our sport special. You know that as well. You're one of them, right? So we have a lot of great times together. Um, and that's what brings you together with that group every time. But no, I think especially when you're in the heat of competition, um, and over my career, I've been lucky to win a lot of events and a lot of titles, AOYs, championships, things like that. But there's nothing like that moment when you catch that one key fish on the last day of competition that you're going to win. I mean, the last day of the Bassmaster Classic in New Orleans, when I won down there, and this is before Bass Track and Live and all of that, when your family doesn't know what's going on. And I knew where I was at to that point, and I was lucky enough to be fishing around the people that were close to me. So, the Aaron Martins was right there, and Scott Rook and Brandon Polinick. I mean, all these other competitors that had even a chance um, to beat me. And I knew, when I caught, a limit of 6 pounders, that it's like, hey, you know, you're going to win this thing. And so when you get that, when you get that final fish in the box, or you catch a huge bag, or even in Major League Fishing, when you know the score with the score tracker, there's nothing like that moment. I mean, when I won a couple of years ago on the Bass Pro Tour at Chickamauga, and it was tight down to the end. I mean, Wheeler was catching up. I got into a big school, got into a big flurry, and got out to a huge lead. But that clock was ticking, but when you get to that moment, I mean, with 10 minutes to go, I'm like, yeah, this, anything can happen, but you just there's just something about that feeling that you get no place else but other than in the tournament. And that part, you know, uh, yeah, television's television, and filming shows is fun, and catching them is key on camera, but it's not the same as that moment when you're pitted against the best of the best and you prevail. That's why we all do it.
Well, it's been a lot of fun watching you compete, and I can't wait to watch your show, because I know what's gonna. I just hear it in your voice when I talk to you, and you're like, I got to shoot. You got that same urgency that you had as a tournament angler. You're putting that same drive behind it. So I can't wait to see it. But here's one thing I would like to see, and I'm going to let you go because I know you got a lot going on. But I have one that, I mean, I'm going to throw it out. I mean, I already failed, crashed and burned once with asking you to call famous friends. Rick Clunn comes on this podcast every month, and I think it's super cool. It's been super cool for me to see. I want to have you and Clunn on the podcast together. Would you do that?
Absolutely.
I think it would be awesome to hear both your minds. I mean, you're so competitive, but you're so different as individuals. So let's work on making that happen.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. I'll be on your podcast anytime. You know what I love about your podcast is, yeah, I mean, you got to talk about what's relevant in the sport, but you know, you're not flipping rocks and looking for piles of crap. I mean, you're trying to focus on things that are relevant and meaningful to people, and bring out a lot of those stories. And just like that, I think that would be I think it'd be incredible for the two of us together at the same time, because I looked up to Rick Clunn in awe when I started. And a lot of what I did as a tournament angler, I modeled after him and what he learned. So I think it'd be pretty interesting to see, you know, his take on me as I came up. And because I dang sure would tell you what I thought and learned from Rick. And it's very vivid in my mind still to this day. So I think that'd be really cool. And again, as a student of the sport and as a fan first of the sport, anytime you get to interact with Rick Clunn would be pretty darn special. So it's something that I always look forward to. And that's why, the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame night is so awesome. I mean, because you get a lot of these legends in the room together, a lot of cool things go on. This year is going to be a lot of fun with, Mike McInnes, which, so many people don't know everything that Mike McInnes has done for the sport of bass fishing for so many years. I mean, produced 23 Bassmaster Classics, but beyond that, a whole lot more. And then obviously with Zonica getting in this year to UMC, the thing, Clun is always there. A lot of the legends of the sport are always there. Skeet getting in this year. It's going to be it's going to be a really special one to attend for
Will
sure.
Zona cry?
I bet you he might. We'll have to, if we do our job, he will.
Yeah, I'm pretty
He'll
sure.
be emotional about it. It means, listen, it means a lot to him. He's honored and humbled about it, and he knows what it is. I mean, the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, it's a special night, but the Hall of Fame itself inside the Wonders of Wildlife Museum is a really special place. And you'll be, there's a lot of improvements to it this year, a lot of changes. I think you're going to be really surprised yourself at just all the things that we're doing. So all this work we're doing, all this fundraising, all these improvements, they're starting to show up. So it's going to be pretty special. And it's all because of that guy, whose hat you have right behind you right there, started this crazy sport that so many of us have lived to the fullest.
Yeah, the amazing Ray Scott, and you are the amazing KVD, dude. I appreciate you doing this, and you said before we started rolling, we're going to do more of these, so we will get you to call some famous friends in the future, right?
Well, I'll have to, preempt it a little bit. Maybe we'll get a famous friend on for you. You never know.
You're as famous as
probably
I
the most famous guy right now that I could call that won't answer. You know why? I'm sure he's fishing this morning.
Yeah.
When he's off, he's fishing.
He fishes more than anybody I know. I mean, he literally, like, as far as someone has found a way to distract, he keeps the distractions out and focuses on fishing. But Kevin VanDam, thank you very much, brother.
Love you, man.
Love you too. There you have it from the one and only Kevin VanDam. And disregard everything I said off the top about, let's not air grievances. Let's be happy. Let's all that, because, it didn't even take a full episode for me to just be pissed off again. And here's what I'm pissed off about. KVD is a remarkable friend. I mean, he talked about it dude showed up to my surprise birthday party in Canada this year. I mean, he's a great friend. I mean, him and Sherry are so incredible to my kids, to my wife, to my whole family. They're incredible friends. So I have him on the show, right? And I'm lucky to be able to call up KVD and say, hey, let's do a show. And as he said on the show, hey, I'll do this anytime. But why, Kevin? Why? If you're going to hold out on me, why do a show? Let's not play this charade. I mean, I tried to promote his show. I tried to leech off of some of his famous friends. Would not let me do that. And then furthermore, he did say he shot his show with some famous folk. And I actually know, here's behind the curtain. I know who he shot the show with, but I'm playing the game. I'm playing along with my friend Kevin. I'm going to ask you who you shot the show with, and you're going to tell me, right? No. Denied again. He denied me to tell me. And he said, well, I'm not going to tell you. It's somebody a famous artist. Okay, so Kevin's playing hard to speak, and he's not going to tell me this. I'm fine with that. Until just moments after we shoot, and I'm perusing social media, and I see this. I have to throw out a big thank you to my good friend, Luke Bryant, for filming an episode of my new television show, The VanDam Experience, at his place in Tennessee. We were like two giddy little kids out there catching them in some pretty rough conditions. Would that have killed you, KVD? I mean, I didn't ask for anything special. I just, who'd you shoot the show with? I mean, you already told me over sushi at the Bassmaster Classic who you shot the show with. Showed me the pictures and everything, but I played the game. I played along, for this show. I was like, who'd you shoot with? I mean, if I was a total dick, I could have been like, so tell me about the show you shot with Luke Bryant. But no, I wanted to play the game nice. And it didn't take an episode for me to learn you can't play this game nice. So I look forward to watching the Luke Bryant edition of the VanDam Experience. They were giggling like little children. Hopefully, next time Kevin's on this show, he'll giggle like a child with me and give me the real information. All of this is just a joke. But really, come on, bro. Give me I can't offer a lot to the viewers. But we do say we're going to be honest. A little honesty. That's all I'm asking for. Here's a man who would never lie to me. Until next week, enjoy being. And now here's a man who would never lie to me. The one and only Bob Cobb. I love you, KVD.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because Bob Cobb of the Bassmasters told you to. You hear?